there. Today we are going to talk about comparing parallel perpendicular lines and then those lines that are neither parallel or perpendicular. So let's skip the warm-up here. Let's scroll down to the notes. So this top half here is talking about parallel lines. So you can see on this graph, these two lines are never going to intersect. Okay, so the first part here, parallel lines that will not intersect. These lines are both increasing by the same amount. So if we kept checking your slope, so say if I make a dot here, I find my slope up 2 over 1. So this slope is 2. If I pick 2 points on this line, the slope is the same. So these equations have the same slope with different y-intercepts. So let me mark that with red. My y-intercept for this equation is here, and the y-intercept for the blue line is way up at y equals 2. Okay, so those are parallel lines. They're never going to touch. I think of them as like a road. Inside the lines here is the road part. Okay, so then down below we have perpendicular lines. So before we start with this, let's review what perpendicular means. So perpendicular, this vocab word, it means 90 degrees. So in geometry, you'll see this all the time, but it may show like two lines like this and then a little square. And that's saying, okay, that angle is 90 degrees. So we may use that symbol on our notes to label where those perpendicular angles are. Okay, so let's fill in these lines here. So lines that intersect with each other at a single point. Okay, now you have to write kind of small for these next ones. So their equations have opposite, reciprocal, slopes, and then with the same or different y-intercept. I'm going to write reciprocal again. I feel like I didn't write that very clearly. Reciprocal. There we go. Okay. So then we have these two equations here. The blue line, this is my equation. The red line, this is my equation, both in y equals mx plus b format. Okay, so we have some space down in this part, and I want to show you what I mean by this opposite reciprocal. Okay, so this slope of the first equation is 6. Okay, so any whole number that we have, I can write it over 1. So reciprocal means I'm going to flip these numbers over. So I'm going to reverse them. I'm going to write 1 over 6. Then the opposite part, that means change the sign. So if it's positive, it will become a negative. If it was negative, then it would become a positive. So this negative 1/6 is a perpendicular slope. So I'm going to write slope, and then this symbol means perpendicular. Okay, so that was just a practice showing you how to get opposite reciprocal. So you see here the slope is 6. This slope is negative 1/6. That's why these two lines here are forming a 90-degree angle. So that means they're perpendicular. Okay, let's turn to the next page then. So these different problems are just asking, different things about parallel, perpendicular. So I'm going to skip around and do a few of them. So number 1, are these lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So what you're going to do is underline your slope, and I'm going to write my slope is equal to -2, my slope is equal to -2. Those slopes are the same. Parallel lines have the same slope. So these two lines are parallel. Okay, then number 2, I'm going to underline my slopes. So my first slope is 3, my second one's -3. So if I wanted to find the perpendicular slope of this first one, I need to write 3 over 1, and I'm going to flip it. So I have 1 over 3, and I'm going to make it negative because it originally was a positive. So these two slopes are not equal. Those are not the same thing. So these are, they're not parallel and they're not perpendicular. So this is neither. All right, and number 3, you need to solve for y first. Oops, sorry. Before you can answer this question. I'm going to write over here. So I have 5y is equal to 4x plus 10. Okay, so I have y is equal to 4/5 x plus 2. Okay, so let's look at our slopes. I'm going to underline them in blue now. This slope is 4/5. The first slope is -5. Those two are not the same and they're not opposite reciprocals. So this is also neither. Nice. Okay, so let's go down here. Write a slope that is parallel to the given line. So all I'm doing is looking, I'll do number 2 here, at my slope, which is -3, and that's all I'm doing. Slope is equal to -3. For number 3, you'd have to solve for y first, and then write what the slope is equal to. Okay, now when they want you to write a slope that's perpendicular, I'm going to look at -1/2. So this is my slope. I want to find the perpendicular slope. So I'm going to flip. So I can write 2 on top, -1 on the bottom. And now I'm going to change the sign. So since it is a negative, it will become a positive. So +2 is my perpendicular slope. So that's my answer. My perpendicular slope is equal to 2, and then I'm done. Okay. Now let's look down below, write a line that is parallel. Okay, I'm going to try number 3 this time. I'll show you one of the harder ones. So I'm going to first solve for y. We always have to do that. So I have 3y is equal to 2x plus 9. Divide by 3. So I have y is equal to 2/3 x plus 3. Okay, so I want to write a line that's parallel to this line. So what is the slope of this equation? Good. 2/3 is my slope. So that same slope needs to be in my next equation. So I'm going to write y is equal to 2/3 times x. So that has the same slope. And then I can pick whatever y-intercept I want, literally any number. So I'll just say +1. So for these two examples, all I'm doing is keeping this first part the same. Y is equal to 3x. You can write whatever y-intercept you want. You can write whatever y-intercept you want for your answers for 1 and 2. All right, then last part here, write a line that's perpendicular. So it's same idea as this up here, but now you're going to have to change your slope before you write your equation of the line. So let's look at number 1. So right now my slope is equal to -1/4. I want to find the perpendicular slope. So I need to flip these over. So it's 4 over -1. Since it's a negative, I want to change it to a positive number. So my perpendicular slope is 4. I need to plug that slope into my y = mx plus b format. So 4 times x, and then whatever intercept I want. I'll say plus 3. I'm just picking a random number. So I know that this equation and this equation are perpendicular because their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. 3 here, you'd have to solve for y first, then find your perpendicular slope to write your equation. Okay, so that's all we are doing today for parallel perpendicular. Make sure you are completing the classwork so you get that extra practice in of finding those slopes.